So what was law school like? The first year of law school is the most difficult. It's the weeder year. There's a book called 1L by Scott Turow that was written in the 70s that I was told to read when I went to law school. It was probably the best instruction manual about what to expect at law school. Even though law schools have changed, AI's come out, the reality is it's still the same in how they're trying to train you. And nothing has changed in that aspect. And it's a very hard year. I think one of the most interesting things in law school for me was actually, oddly enough, now that I'm a trial lawyer, because I was not anticipating being a trial lawyer, it was in the back of my mind was we had what's called a trial advocacy class. And actually for your final grade, you did a trial. I had a blast doing that trial, and they brought in people from off the streets to be jurors, and an attorney, local attorney, was the judge. And we learned a lot on how to frame a case and how to do that case. And the funny thing was, my dad was one of the witnesses, and he came down and prepped for it. And he took it so seriously, like it was the biggest deal in the world that he got to be a witness at a trial, that it was one of my more fun and memorable experiences in law school. I live in Oviedo, Florida. I've lived in Florida my whole law career. I went to school in Nebraska. Why Nebraska? You're probably the first that people say, the first person I've ever met from Nebraska is you. I was living in Nebraska at the time. I had gone to school away for undergrad through Indiana. And then I came back to Nebraska for law school. I went to Nebraska, frankly, because it was the cheapest law school I could attend. That was still a good law school. But importantly, I want to talk to you about, just because you go to law school in a certain state doesn't mean you have to practice in that state. So what happened for me is I knew I wanted to get out of Nebraska. Why? There's not a lot to do in Nebraska. Sorry to my friends that are watching this that are relatives, but there's not a lot to do in Nebraska, and it's really, really cold. So I wanted to get somewhere warm. So I knew I was going to eventually leave. I didn't know where I was going to go, so I didn't decide to go to Florida for law school or California for law school. I just knew I wanted to get somewhere warm. The reality is I learned Florida law over the summer. So I spent the summer of going into the bar exam. The bar exam is two parts: national exam, state exam. For one summer, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever it was, I learned Florida law so I could pass that portion of the bar. Once you do that, you're a lawyer in Florida. But the reality is you're going to learn most of the law and most of everything that happens in Florida while you're actually working in Florida.